Really?
Yeah.
That accident on Cerritos Road,
Yeah, well, so,
two big trucks,
Oh,
one of
no.
them rolled and all over the street.
yeah, maybe that's what's going on.
Wow.
All the streets I normally take were just crazy. Was that it?
Yeah, that could tie up a lot of things for a long time.
Yeah, there's a ladder truck in the middle of Cerritos Road,
Where on Cerritos?
right at Richards.
Oh, yeah, so that's where I typically, just north of there, come across. Ugh. Yeah, I couldn't, it was like, it was all just stopped. So, sorry.
Is Alameda now clear?
No.
What are
So-
they
so
doing? Are they just,
So where is that blocked off? Is it further east, like,
It's from, the four-way stop at El Rancho Road, Nopal,
Yeah,
Nopal?
yeah.
It's down between Nopal and Siler. So you can't get between those
so what are
two.
they doing?
So
I got through there the other day.
we rode our bikes down. We rode our bikes down and they had trenched across the whole road and were putting a big culvert in. But we were gonna ride our bikes down maybe tomorrow to see, haven't they got the culvert in yet? So then Agua Fria is crazy.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
there's-
Right.
Yeah.
Taking comp wave.
Well, I go the other way on it, so
Okay.
most of the time. But a lot of times, I mean,
When you say you go the other way
on
Alameda,
Alameda,
just 'cause it's a lot
go
longer, or
around
is it-
and then,
To Agua Fria.
yeah,
And then down.
yeah.
So that's what I tried to do, but on Agua Fria, all the traffic was stopped, and I bet it was because people
bet it
were
was
trying to
too.
go to
Every day.
Cerritos, and
Did
Cerritos
you find a
was
little
stopped.
paper, or do you have to write?
Streets can't quite handle that here.
Okay. Let's call the meeting to order. Welcome, everybody. Everybody's who's here and online. Do we have somebody online? Pierre?
Yes, I'm here.
Great, thank you. Yeah, welcome on this windy afternoon. And let's call the meeting to order. Welcome. Adopt the agenda. Could I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
Motion to adopt the agenda.
Seconded.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Aye. Okay, public comments.
There are no public comments.
No public comments. Okay. And now we will go, do we have a closed session?
Yes, sir, we do.
We do? Okay. So now we will go into closed session.
Do a roll call.
Yeah.
Chair Gamble,
Yes?
Vice Chair Pugh,
Yes.
Secretary Quintana. Yes, present. Member Wilson,
Yes.
and Member Siegel is running late.
Okay. So now you can take a break.
I know, that was a record, Audrey.
Okay, so we'll move back into regular session. Could I have a roll call?
Chair Campbell,
Yes.
Vice Chair Pugh,
Yes.
Member Wilson,
Yes.
Member Siegel,
Yeah.
and Secretary Quintana.
Is she on Zoom?
She's muted.
Oh.
Okay. Okay. So let's proceed then with the president's report.
Thank you, Mr.
I'm
Chair.
sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. Employees of the month.
Okay. Yes, I will start with the employees of the month for March. For the Pass It Forward Award, we have Jocelyn Hernandez Monsalvo from Student Success, who is nominated by Katie Prebe from Human Resources. Jocelyn she's done an outstanding job in various facets in our student success area, but mostly as a case manager, and this is a relatively new position, I would say, for Santa Fe Community College, and she helps students solve non-academic problems. So find tuition, transportation assistance, housing assistance, connects people with nonprofits. And so you can see that she's always available for people who need advice, and she helps people find interpreters, really critical work. So congratulations to Jocelyn for all of her hard work. I know this recognition is much deserved. And for the WOW-gram for March, we have Melissa Martinez from the Office of Financial Services, who is nominated by Adrian Gallegos from the Small Business Development Center. And she says that Melissa really went the extra mile when explaining and helping us go through our first P-card experience with Workday and our second, when they forgot how to do it. And so she's been instrumental in helping folks, especially navigate the Workday transition, which can be a little bit trying at times. So congratulations to both of them. And now on to the regular report. And at the end, I have a legislative update with some details about exactly how Santa Fe Community College did during the session. So first, under the Chess Collaborative, Corey Bergen and Yash Morimoto are serving on the Executive Steering Committee for the SIS project. This is critical work for us. Yash and Corey have been on the steering committee for the first phase of the project too, so I'm really grateful for their assistance there. And then Amy Pell and Tomasina Ortiz Gallegos are serving on the stakeholder committee for the ERP piece and the SIS. So these are the critical leadership groups in the project, and we have the critical people in these leadership groups. So that really is an important piece for us in helping us navigate through the transition into the next part of the project. So right now we are still in the transitional phase with the ERP project. The second wave of the ERP, which is San Juan and Luna, they are gearing up to go forward on that project. The procurement piece for the wave one did not happen during wave one for various reasons. So now the wave one schools, Santa Fe, C&M, Clovis, and Northern, will be partnering with Luna and San Juan in wave two to do procurement. So as they're doing procurement for, initially, we're all doing it at the same time. And that will be an update to the software that we use currently as a sourcing tool, and then moving to the Workday procurement tool. If you have any more detailed questions, someone else will have to answer those. I just said all that I know. Under student engagement, the film department chair, Milton Reese, and our dean, Jim Wysong, represented the college at the press announcement by Governor Lujan Grisham for the New Mexico Media Academy. It sounds like that was quite a big day, and we got some good publicity for that. So we are not really part of that project so much, but we are certainly supporting our colleagues in their venture, and we're kind of working on some film initiatives of our own, which I will brief you on as and if they develop. The Early Childhood Center of Excellence and the Mother Tongue are sponsoring student parent access. This series includes monthly gatherings in the library with free childcare and free refreshments to parents. This is all part of our initiative to provide more opportunities and more assistance to student parents through some really great grant funding that we have received. The School of Arts and Design and Media Arts student exhibition will open May 11th in the Visual Arts Gallery. So we'll have work from a bunch of different genres. It should be a terrific show, as it always is. The Career Services hosted Diplomat in Residence for the Southwest. Antoinette Hurtado, who wrote and spoke about the State Department careers and student programs, shared her journey as a diplomat. So that's just one of the cool things I think that our students here at Santa Fe Community College are able to get, where we can bring in opportunities, speakers like this, to let students know about opportunities that they might not think they would have access to ordinarily. The EPA graduates will be honored tomorrow at a ceremony at the HEC graduation ceremony. I'm going to skip over a little bit. The director of the Center for Book Art and Printmaking, Patricia Pierce, and the printmaking program hosted sessions during Monathon Santa Fe, which is a prestigious honor for the college that exposes more artists to the program at SFCC. So this was really a terrific event too, and a lot of good work shown here. We signed an articulation agreement with New Mexico Highlands for students who complete an Associate of Arts in Accounting or in Business Administration, so that these can be easily transferred to Highlands. The Student Parent Success Program and Kids Campus presented info sessions about Kids Campus enrollment and financial supports for student parents. Again, we're trying to do all that we can. We obviously have more people who need our services than we have slots available, and this has become, the whole operation of Kids Campus has changed so completely since my time here because of all of the money that the Early Childhood Department is offering to both to parents and to Santa Fe Community College to provide these services, so that we're able to provide a lot more service and not have the college having to subsidize that as we used to have to do. The massage therapy program is having a student massage therapy clinic through May 13th. On May 19th, in collaboration with the Santa Fe International Literary Festival, Narrative 4, and the English Department, SFCC will host a story exchange event with author Colin McCann. The English and Creative Writing students from Santa Fe colleges and high schools will be encouraged to attend this free event. So again, we're connecting with the International Literary Festival to provide stuff for our students. You can see there are numerous faculty awards down there for our faculty and staff. A lot of good work going on. I'm going to skip over to the bond projects. I'm not going to go through these. If you have questions, I think Nick can ask you. Part of what we're going to be talking about further on in the meeting are some projects that we will ask for inclusion in the next bond question that we will go out for in November of this year. There's approximately $23 million bond package that we will go to the voters and ask for approval for. Under community engagement, I want to remind everybody that this is Community College Month, and so we've had some really big events on campus in conjunction with Community College Month, where we have had a highly successful transfer and career fair that we hosted yesterday. Today is Diversity Day on campus, so there are a lot of booths and activities on campus. And then the car club, whatever we need to spend it on, like paying salaries. So I don't know. We'll have to see how that goes. There was a $20 million appropriation that was made last year that was supposed to be for work-study students in technical fields that did not get touched. So no one could access that money. So this year, we worked, NMICC worked at the beginning of the session to get that money reauthorized, and so we got the work-study language out of that appropriation, and so now it can be used for basically any kind of workforce training, credit or non-credit, for I think it's intended as a mostly community college pot of money, but I'm sure it won't be.
For RFP, or how will they get it out?
Well, that's still to be determined. So HED has the funds, and there is a disbursement plan that they've come up with, but whether or not they will just go ahead and disperse according to that, or they'll make us apply for it, is yet to be determined. They have a lot of determining to do still. So in the capital bill, HB 505, Santa Fe Community College is receiving $100,000 for an awning for the EMSI program. $1,095,338,000 will go towards loop road improvements out in front of the college, and then $400,000 for the microgrid. And that, Nick can talk to you about that later on, but the cost of that project has jumped astronomically during the pandemic and through all the supply chain issues. So we were really running short in our funding for that, and so we had a couple of legislative requests to try to make that up, and we're
On
about
that
there.
point, I wondered, why are we getting the loop road money?
Nick, it's a safety issue it's really more the loop out in front of the college. It's not the connector road,
Oh, okay.
which I know.
That's what I was confused about.
I've already done that.
Okay.
Had that. Yeah. So it's actually something that came from our master plan, and in terms of 911 calls and
Okay.
things like that.
I thought it
So-
was the connector.
Yeah.
I
No,
didn't
we
get
wish
that.
we were getting another for
Right.
that, because that's kind of an issue. So that's our regular capital money from the capital bill, and then in the RPSB line, we are receiving $136,000 for teacher education expansion, $91,000 for the EMSI program, $435,000 for the firstborn program. That program got a pretty significant increase from, I think, some pretty strong outside lobbying for that program, so that's really good. And then $60,000 for short-term boot camps. And then in the junior bill,
There is nursing money there too.
oh, yes, oh, sorry, I skipped over that. There is $439,000 for nursing expansion, yes,
In what?
for nursing expansion.
Oh,
Yeah. And that's a critical line for us.
and what's that going to mean? How's that going to be spent, roughly? I mean, is that physical facility?
No, it's generally spent on salaries and
Okay.
on increasing. We can add a position that way, but we've also spent some of it on adding different. It can be anything that we use that we can say we've justified expanding the program. So it can be spent on simulation and things like that, and it changes
But
a little
not
bit.
physical facility?
No, not like
expanding?
no, not expanding the building.
Okay.
Yeah. And then under the junior bill, there's a couple of really weird lines in here, and I had Vanessa track these down for me because I thought, I don't know what this is even. So there's $200,000 for nursing and $100,000 for CTE that is supposed to be split between Luna Community College, Santa Fe Community College, UNM Valencia, and ENMU Ruidoso. Do you know about this?
Yes. I think
Good.
Liz put that in for
Okay.
50,000 each
Well, that's-
for
Okay.
those
Because those
four.
are her areas.
Yes,
Okay.
but each nursing program is supposed to
Okay.
get 50,000.
Well, we understood that it was to be divided evenly, but that was all that we knew about it, because Vanessa did check on it. So that makes sense that was the origin of that. So I will follow up on that.
So it sounds like nursing is doing pretty well.
Decently.
Yeah,
Needs a lot more.
it does,
Yeah.
nursing gets a lot of money, but nursing is really expensive. So it costs a lot to do anything in nursing.
Right.
And then we have another $75,000 to Firstborn for technical assistance, and this is for the study that they're doing, the research to show that their evidence-based, the evidence-based nature of that program, and then another $75,000 for nursing equipment, and $75,000 for STEM camps. Through the HED budget, Chess has received $7 million through the Department of IT. That will be fine for next year, but we tried to get 2 years worth of money in 1 year, but they're going to make us come back and get money every year. So that's what we'll do. I'll be spending a lot of my time doing that next year. So that is kind of an overall, an overview of all of the funding. There have been some legislative impacts from different pieces of legislation along the way. One thing that we were, I would say, sort of relieved about a little bit, there was a bill to have higher education at the very least start reporting a lot more data to, but maybe have more oversight from the Legislative Education Study Committee. We thought that bill was going to get signed, but it got vetoed at the last minute, and we kind of breathed a sigh of relief, and we'll wait and see what happens next year.
Pocket veto, wasn't it?
I think maybe it was, yeah. But I kind of heard, originally the governor hadn't said she'd intended to sign it, and then didn't. So, and then the other thing is the NIMSIA legislation for insurance. So this is actually, I think, a great idea, but there is a bill that was to provide more funding for the employer portion of insurance for public school entities. But the way the bill was worded, it was for all NIMSIA NIMSIA educational entities. So that included 6 colleges that also use the NIMSIA insurance pool. So there was funding in the bill for the public schools. There was no funding in the bill for the colleges, but the colleges still have to follow the mandate of the bill. So some employees will be receiving, will be paying less for their insurance, which is a great thing. The college will be paying more for insurance, which you'll see. We'll walk you through this in the budget piece. But we did not get any extra money to pay for that. So this year it's approximately $175,000, I think, that the college will have to pick up additionally and work into our budget for employee insurance. And then, that could change in the upcoming years depending upon how things go. A couple of other things that have happened since before this report was actually accumulated or assimilated and everything. Last Friday, I went to a meeting at the La Fonda with the Assistant Secretary of the Department of Education. It was with a lot of the usual suspects that I go to meetings with around town, but it was nice to be connected with the Federal Department of Education. It was mostly a public school event, but the whole theme of this was about raising the bar. And so they were gathering input from higher ed, legislative entities, different nonprofits in town about how we might work to improve public school and in turn, make that pipeline with higher education a little bit more seamless. I did attend the Higher Learning Commission conference in Chicago at the end of March. In the President's Track this year, there were 2 dominant themes. The first was on innovation for colleges and how we need to look at offering our courses in different formats, offering our courses in different lengths, and then really focusing a lot more on offering non-credit options and micro-credentials to students who want those options. and then looking at how micro-credentials can eventually feed into the credit side, and that everything kind of becomes a seamless pipeline. The other thing that we spent a lot of time talking about was mental health. And so we have been talking about those issues at the college a lot. As you know, we have invested in a product called You Will, which provides 24/7 access to mental health counseling for free for our students. And so students can access people virtually anytime they want to. We have some say over the people that are providing this counseling, so if we ever hear that students don't like a particular person, then we can have that person taken out of the rotation. But it seems to be catching on with our students, and it seems to be well received in that they rate it very highly in terms of the level of service. But we will be hiring a counseling director as we have a retirement impending. But it's also important that since we do offer a lot of online classes, we have to provide the same level of service for our online students as we do for our face-to-face students. And that is a very strict dictate from the Higher Learning Commission. And not that we wouldn't be really concerned about that all the time, but we're really concerned about it when we know they're coming to visit us in the fall.
On that point, I have a question.
Sure.
You Will, is that a local organization or the counselors?
Did I call it the wrong thing?
No?
For counseling?
Yeah.
No, if you will.
Okay.
Yeah,
I couldn't
but is
remember.
it-
I was thinking there's something else. There is like a will service that I think has that same name,
Oh.
and I was like, that's not what it is.
But are the counselors New Mexicans? Or are you calling a big
Some
call center and getting somebody in another state, which is against the law, but
Some
go
of
on.
them may be, they try to have folks that are particularly knowledgeable about services in this area and the local area.
But my question is about, are they licensed practitioners in New Mexico?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, that was my only question.
They may not
Okay.
physically be, but they are licensed.
Licensed
Yes.
in New Mexico.
Yes. So one of the
Okay.
other
Jim,
things that
sorry.
No, go ahead.
On that same point, you said that we would be providing with that service online counseling to match the in-person counseling?
Yes.
We have in-person counseling?
Yes, we do. We do. So students can go, we want students to feel free and be able to access our services any way that is most convenient for them. And the thing that I think is good about the remote service is that if you're having an issue or a crisis at 11 o'clock on a Saturday night, waiting until Monday is not a very good option. And so being able to access somebody immediately that's what they will do. The other thing that, at what the speaker at HLC mentioned is that there has been a lot of research showing that really good outcomes from remote services, and they say even chat services, because students just want to connect. And so providing that connection is the critical thing. So we haven't gone that route yet. I don't know if we will, but there seems to be a lot of indication that the outcomes are good. So the other thing that we are doing is investing in more training for students, faculty, and staff on our campus in a program called QPR, which is basically suicide prevention training. So it's basically the premise is that if you can ask somebody if they're okay and if they're suicidal and get them to talk about it, that you can de-escalate the situation and connect them with help. And we've had a couple of rounds which seem to be really well received, so we're going to ramp that up a little bit. And I'm actually working a little bit with a foundation in town to see if we can get a little bit more funding to kind of take that out a little bit further. We also we have written a letter to our bookstore vendor to give them a 60-day notice that we are severing with them because we're not happy with our service. And so Nick and John Apodaca are working with another vendor now to establish service with another vendor who also has a good relationship with another college in the region. We just did not feel like we got any kind of response to the issues that we had in providing materials on time to our students, and that's just not acceptable. So we will do something else. And then finally, there are 2 studies that HED and LFC are going to be conducting. The first is a sustainability study that focuses on the higher education funding formula. I don't really know how in-depth this is going to be, but they want to look at all of our baseline funding, how it's tied to our enrollment, what other resources there are in the community. I don't know if they're really going to make any changes based upon what they find, but they're going to look at it anyway. I think it's due for a really thorough review because we've been using the same formula that I think it was like 2012 when we first started using that, and it's we don't use it as it's written anyway. We have a giant workaround, so it's time to look at it. And then the other thing that I just found out yesterday, HED is going to be doing a faculty compensation study.
Ooh, good.
So that I think will be very helpful, and that will include staff too. So I think that they know that our salaries in New Mexico overall are low and relative to national salaries, and so I think that to me is an important piece in recognizing that, you know, we get a higher percentage. Higher education is funded at a higher percentage in New Mexico than it is in most other states, but still the overall funding for higher education is low relative to other states. So anyway, that is what's going on right now. May 13th is our spring commencement, so I think everybody is looking forward to that. Generally speaking, at this time, it can't come soon enough for students and faculty and staff. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
I just wanted to mention that Controlled Environment Agriculture Open House is this Saturday, the
Okay.
29th. So
Thank you. I got that wrong.
Starts at 12 o'clock, and there will be students from the program on my radio show from 11 to 12.
Great.
It'll be very fun. Everyone should come. Good food and free plants.
They do good events.
Any other comments, questions? If not, thank you, Becky. And we will move on to the enrollment and retention report.
Good afternoon, members of the board, Chair Gamble, President Rowley. Becky mentioned some of the April activities, and thanks, Zuby, for reminding us about the time for the CAE event, which is, I'm really looking forward to attending that. And the other events this month, I think, have all been resounding successes, so kudos to the people who put those on. And so it's been a bustling month here, full of activity. It's been really nice to see that. So with commencement kind of on the horizon on May 13th, there's just this campus right now. I feel like a lot of the departments and programs are transitioning, hustling, bustling, gearing up, wrapping up this semester and kind of looking forward now to summer and fall. And so we're seeing, some good stuff, though. I've been seeing a lot of yellow buses with high school tours coming out through the roundabout from my office, and our department is firing up our summer and fall registration campaigns, working with a big swath of programs and departments on their respective goals, which there are many. I looked on the college website, there's 57 programs and 59 now departments, and so every single one of those places is like doing their own thing right now, making adjustments from spring and moving into summer and fall. So a lot of movement. And so you received the enrollment numbers. As we look at summer and fall, it's really early in that, in those reporting to kind of, for me to really talk about that in any great depth. And we've covered the spring enrollment monthly for a while. And so I know you have a pretty full agenda, but I thought that, we could take time for some questions if you have any. But we're seeing things basically trending pretty steadily. And we'll have definitely a lot more in-depth reporting as the weeks go by.
Okay, thank you, Todd. Comments, questions? Todd, are there any particular activities, recruitment efforts that you would mention that have been going on, or because I know that's a big issue.
Yeah, well, I agree. It's important to all of us. I think what I've seen is some really strong collaboration. For example, today's diversity events were a collaborative effort between people in our community outreach and recruitment office, as well as the president's diversity advisory committee. I think that sometimes those kind of recruitment events, those are when that synthesis, or when they join forces to create kind of an organic environment for people to get together. I think those are some of our strongest, opportunities to reach the community. But yes, I think the high school outreach and the tours, these are the people who many of them were going to see them at this college. So the kind of mantra in my discipline is to leverage the areas with high yields. And so that age group from high school is really important that we hone in on them at this time, as well as looking at returning students and people who we want them to continue on their journey. As I've said in the past, it's much easier to keep people than to kind of convert new ones to become college students, although that's another leg of this. So we're a community college, and so the people we serve are diverse, and it's very wide. And so in many ways, there's just has to be different approaches for each kind of group. The spike in enrollment now early that we see for summer and fall is going to be made up, of people getting the quick jump on, the pickleball classes and art. But that's going to level out as the enrollment cycle continues through, and that's when we're going to be able to have a more in-depth, meaningful discussion about adult students, high school students, returning students. Those are the areas that we're looking at really closely.
Mm-hmm. Sounds good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Chair Campbell?
Yes.
I have a question. That's okay?
Yes.
Hi, Todd, if he's still there. Are you all doing anything with our larger employers in Santa Fe, let's say Santa Fe Public Schools, the state of New Mexico, the hospitals, to recruit folks who haven't necessarily earned a degree and maybe looking to get promoted with their current employer? Are there any efforts like that happening?
The answer is yes. I'm going to hold your question for when Marcos is here, and I can kind of give you a more robust response to that. But yes, and that you can talk about that in a variety of ways. In terms of a lot of our programs also have steering advisory groups that are tied into the community for their disciplines, and so a lot of, again, that collaboration that let's say Marcos's department will work with them in the needs that they express from their sectors, from their areas. And then, there are partnerships, there are many partnerships. And in a lot of ways, there's also room to grow in these spaces as well. So thank you for that. I'm not really going to be able to answer that in like super thorough way, but I really want to get you a good rounded out answer. So hopefully, let me touch base and we'll touch on that at the next meeting if you're okay with that.
Yeah, thanks, Marcos. Or even if you all want to follow up with an email through Becky, that would be helpful too.
Sure thing.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Pierre. Thanks, Marcos. Todd.
Students may be admitted to the college.
Okay, we'll now have the Faculty Senate report from somebody online.
We're ahead of schedule. We're a little ahead of schedule.
Oh, are we?
They may not have realized that
Okay,
we're up
it's
yet.
2:30.
How can we be ahead?
Oh, yeah, we're almost, golly, we're doing well. Okay, how about Staff Senate report? Great. Thank you for being early.
So good afternoon, Chair Gamble, members of the board, President Raleigh. Thank you for the opportunity to present on behalf of Staff Senate this afternoon. I know that you received one meeting in your packet, but we had one that's more recent, so I wanted to give more of the updates on that one, on the more recent one, and you will be receiving that on our next governing board meeting. Right now, the Staff Senate is reviewing our Constitution and bylaws. Staff Senate bylaws were reviewed in 2020, but our Constitution has not been updated since 2014. So staff members have been asked to review the Constitution and bylaws and see if there are any changes or updates that need to be added. So that's one of the things that Staff Senate's been focused on. An agenda item that was added to Staff Senate's most recent meeting was reporting issues related to student conduct. Bobby Mascareñas, our Student Affairs Officer, and Chris Getler, our Safety and Security Director, gave an update on ways to report behavior of a concerning nature. They reminded staff not to hesitate to report things, stating that sometimes little things add up to bigger issues, and dots can only be connected if the information is reported, and I quote that. Staff are encouraged to be vigilant in safeguarding our community. Staff Senate appreciates and thanks Bobby and Chris for sharing these updates with all staff. We really appreciated them giving that update to us. And the last piece that we want to talk about is Staff Senate officers are soliciting nominations for co-chair and secretary for our upcoming election. Self-nominations are welcome. One co-chair position term will be ending now at the end of June, and our secretary position term will also be ending at the end of June. And those are our latest and greatest topics that we have on our last meeting. And with that, Tammy and I stand for any questions.
Well, I was very interested in seeing that there was interest in more community building events, especially a board game night.
Absolutely.
You want to talk about
yes, Chair
either
Campbell,
or both of
Board
those?
President Raleigh. Yes, that's been a topic. I think a lot of times now because we're back from COVID, and I think a lot of staff members are saying, we had I think we had a baseball team at one time, or maybe have a bowling night or having a game night. So a lot of staff members have been excited about seeing how we can get together other than within the college on our day-to-day basis. So that's something that I think's been put out there that we're looking into. So yes.
I think that'd be very interesting. Sort of the college and so many of its departments is trying to reach out to the community. And of course, that would be one way that sort of, it's community building, but it has links out into the community.
Absolutely, yes.
That's great. Look forward to it. I can't play baseball, but. Any other comments, questions?
Just wanted to commend you. The attendance at your meetings looks like it's pretty high, and I think that's a statement on leadership, so congratulations.
Thank you, Member Wilson. Appreciate that.
Okay, thank you kindly.
Chair Gamble, I have a question.
Okay, Pierre?
So I know there's a retirement coming up for someone who's worked at the college for a number of years, which got me thinking, are there ways in which, I don't know, maybe that you all aren't the right folks to ask, but I want to put it out there. Are there ways in which we can be notified of those retirements to just acknowledge the years of service, or are there ways that the board can be involved in knowing who those people are when they retire?
I'm not sure I heard that. Did you understand that?
So Pierre, were you asking if Staff Senate has something to do with that? Is that what you're asking?
I think I'm just more of like saying if there's a way for us to, I guess, thank the staff and faculty who have served the college for many years. And oftentimes we don't know who's leaving until they're gone. So if there's, and again, this might be something that we have to work out on our own, but if there's any way that we could be notified of those retirements, that would be really great, because I'd like to thank those people.
Mr. Chair, I can answer that too. You know, yeah, and Secretary Quintana, we can let you know. The trick is, I often know about those before the person who's retiring is ready for anyone else to know. And so we have to wait until, or I would absolutely insist on waiting until people are ready to let people know that they're retiring. And often that is at the very last minute for all kinds of different reasons. So yes, we could certainly do that, you know, at the end of each semester, let you know if there's anyone who is retiring in that semester.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And then there could be a retirement party. Yeah, why not have a retirement party every month or every 3 months, or
Yeah.
people who don't want other people to know that they're retiring, they could just come anonymously. Thank you very much. And now we will turn to Isabella for a student report.
Hello, I am Isabella Jefferson. I don't know if my mic is...
You're going to have to get a little closer.
Gotta grow taller first. Okay. Is that better there? Yeah. Okay. So
Yeah.
I'm Isabella Jefferson, and I am the student government president. You're gonna bring me in the mic? Thank you so much. My back thanks you. Okay. So I have my report ready. So a call for nominations was run by SGA advisor Mary Elias as per the SFCC Student Government Constitution. At this time, we have no students running in the elections. SGA funded the Glass Club $400 for a glass blowing class that will be held off campus in May. So as far as the activities that happened in April, SGA officers gave spring holiday food bags to 49 students. A spring event fun fest was held April 11th from 11:30 to 1:30 in the campus center. 50 students and staff attended the event. SFCC launched a TikTok account on April 11th as well. Senator Morningstar and the marketing team currently have control over the account. The account handle is SFCCNM, and that is all caps. We have about 7 followers. If you want to join, we have a QR code down at the Office of Student Engagement. Student Parent Success Program is limited. So I was asked this question about the Student Parent Program, is how the SGA can get involved in that. So they are limited to a stipend for 29 or younger students. So they're maxed out at this time. Fall will open for new students. On the younger spectrum, not many did follow through with the program, but SFCC, SGA is going to look for a senator to join their student leadership team. And I will attend in the meantime until the end of my term. And that concludes my presentation. I will now stand for any questions.
Okay, thank you, Isabella. Any comments or questions for Isabella?
Is it early yet, or are you concerned that there aren't more people wanting to run for positions?
There is not a single soul who is interested at this time to run. My term ends, as you know, now in May, so we have put the word out, and we don't have any leads at this time for that.
So any thoughts about how to increase interest?
I mean, at this time, we don't really have any student engagement on campus, just to be honest. We have flyers out every single time that we go out and do any events. I just don't know that there's enough people on campus that are interested in working for student government.
Mm-hmm.
As far as I know.
I guess a sign. Excuse me, yes, please.
Hi, Chair Gamble, members of the board, and Dr. Rowley. I just like to expand a little bit on what President Jefferson was asked about. I'm sorry. My name is Mary Elias, and I'm the Student Government Advisor. And normally, according to the SGA Constitution, we have to run the elections on the 14th week of the spring semester. We have done the call for nominations, so we didn't get any applicants, so we couldn't do the campaigning or the elections. And so through the summer, we will be recruiting and continuing getting the word out there to students, and then we'll do another call for nomination at the first week of school. And hopefully we'll have a student government by the beginning of September. So hopefully that we'll just continue all our recruitment efforts until we can get a student government in place by the beginning of school term.
So, question, Chair.
Please.
So if I understand what you're saying, this is an artifact of students just not being on campus? Or do you think something else is?
I think it's part of both. Right now, we go in and we engage a lot of students, and we're out there almost every day, and it's just kind of like pulling teeth sometimes to get them to come to the events. Usually when we were doing the events like the food boxes for the holidays, we were getting 100, 150, and they only had 50 some this year. So I don't know what's happening, if it's because they are on campus and some are not. I don't know if they're getting overwhelmed with emails or messages or what, I don't know. And I know that there is a concern at one point because we send everything out, their communications out in their SFCC email, and sometimes they don't look at it, or sometimes they focus on their Canvas email and they don't connect the two. So it would be nice if somehow those two platforms spoke. That way they can get the message either way. And that is one part that is very disconnected. Because like, well, I didn't see it on Canvas. It's like, well, we sent it over here. So I'm going to be working with Yash later this summer to see how we maybe do a survey or something. How do we reach out to the students to say, how are we missing you? You know, how do you want to be communicated again? Because sometimes it happens every semester. They're all interested and they're interactive, and then boom, they're kind of gone. So I don't know what's going on. Because like today we had, as an example, we had PDAC and we had, the Diversity Day, and yesterday we had a career fair. Seemed like more students were involved today in Diversity Day, but they weren't out there with the 100 vendors looking for a job. So it's just like, you know, this information is important, but how do you gather that data? And somehow I hope we can work towards that, so maybe we can connect the dots so we can really get the students engaged more.
So will TikTok?
We're hoping. I think we just signed up a few more. So we're trying every kind of way of trying to reach the students. You know, we go to the classrooms, we're outside in the front, we have the campus cupboard, the exchange, and we're getting things out there in the cabinets. We go and sit out there. I mean, we're doing everything we possibly can, and sometimes it's hit and miss, and sometimes those hallways are kind of empty. So I really wish we can get more students back on campus, I really do, to get that engagement.
How about offering some incentive?
Well,
I don't know, food, yeah.
we do. Every one of our events, we have food. And like the food box, we gave them food, and we gave them a $20 gift card to Albertsons. We've done, you know, we tell them to come and do TikTok and get 10 people to sign up, or some people will give you a gift card. So we're trying all kinds of different ideas to how to get them engaged in. And I don't know, if you all have ideas, I would gladly hear them out, and we'll put them into work.
I might suggest that you reach out to Faculty Senate, because they're obviously in direct communication with the students all the time, to see if they feel, not you can't make them do anything, but if they would be willing to help do some announcements and encouragements, because I think that may be one avenue.
And I have worked with Kate, and I've worked with Jared on getting those announcements out, and so it is going, and sometimes they might have not gotten the message out in time or gotten it in time, but that has helped a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Do we text them?
I was informed that texting, I think, is kind of limited a little bit more right now to marketing, I think. I don't think they want to overwhelm with text. I don't really want to misstate some stuff there with that, because I don't want to look at Todd.
I was thinking the same thing. Yeah.
That's how I get mine.
This is a big conversation, because this is talking about the intersections of communications, student communications, overlapping with marketing channels, social media channels, and any one of these things by themselves is not going to be very effective. To answer your text message question, yes, it is very effective. The problem is I don't know how many texts you enjoy getting with any frequency, but we have to be very deliberate about what we do. More importantly, we have a huge, you don't want necessarily someone who is, I don't know, I've got pickleball in the brain, but the way you would talk to a pickleball class is not the way you would talk to someone who's coming in necessarily to campus cupboard. And if you just do that all the time, you just create this flood of information, and then you're just right back where you started, because everyone phases you out, because now you're just spamming people. And so the way to address this is going to just be a continued commitment to these like different communication channels that reside in our respective areas, with support from the institution by providing like the technology to do that. So I really do believe that text messaging is great, and we do that in a lot of different ways. But it's all about parsing out the list so that we're sending the appropriate messages to the appropriate people. That, or we just give you a login to their text thing and just see what happens, but we've tried it, and it gets messy pretty fast. And so that's a tricky one. It's effective, but it's also kind of sacrosanct in some ways.
We're so disbanded at this time, right? And people aren't in the same place. And so something like that seems like maybe it might be effective, at least let people know that if they're interested, who to get hold of or something. It would reach everybody. We're trying.
Yeah. I think there's, 120 different people on this campus who would have their own idea of a text message I could send on their behalf. And so it's a tricky one, managing the mass communication channels. But we need to lean into that more. And I think what this is like maturing. We're figuring out, need to figure this stuff out to be able to, Mary needs to be empowered to reach her people in a way that's effective, just like any other department in this college needs to be able to do that. It's not necessarily a marketing solution to that. This is communications impacts everybody. And so, we, that's my TED Talk, but we need to keep working on providing systems that support, that empower reaching our target audiences, because social media is fun. TikTok's great. That's not going to solve the problem. Right. Email is not, tomorrow we're not going to wake up and people are going to start using their, emails religiously. That's not going to solve the problem. The answer is there, but we got to keep working on it.
Oh, I agree, Todd. But I think, you can create lists and manage lists, right?
Yes. And I think that's just a thing where, I think the college continues to kind of learn about communication, internal communication, student communication, external communication, constituent communication, legislator communication, and who are the owners of those spaces. And so that's part of, that list management is kind of that, is ownership, and then giving, access to all those, to the right people and the right training and all of that kind of stuff.
Right. Okay, thanks.
I would just like to add is, if there is a way, and it might not, but if there is a way that Canvas and the SFCC email can talk with one another, I think that could be the first step. Because a lot of people just come in and go to their Canvas account and they just do that and they don't bother with the SFCC email at all. And if there was a way to connect, I think that could start some of that communication.
Mm-hmm. There is communication, but it only goes one way. It goes from Canvas to SFCC, not the other way. Yeah. So if people use their SFCC, they would get both. But
yeah, and I've tried talking with OLT before, and I've seen if we can put messages on Canvas, and at this time they can't do that. And I was trying to see if we could put flyers out there or a calendar of some sort of activities, and that is not an option right now. So I don't know if that's just the platform itself or the investment of time and people. I don't know.
Okay.
Okay, any other comments or solutions?
I have one question for Dr. Rowley. Is there any concern, since the student government member on the governing board is statutory in New Mexico law, is there any concern about a long period of vacancy or how those people are chosen? Or do we have any obligation to fill that position before the fall?
Mr. Chair, Member Wilson, I don't know about our particular obligation to do that. I know there is a statutory, but not every college does have that as part of their board makeup. I do know that. Mm-hmm. But I know, too, that we do have some plans for recruiting student members over the summer, so I feel pretty confident that we'll get somebody.
Okay.
And additionally to that, Board Member Wilson, it is in their student government constitution that they're in session during fall and spring. So if any of this needs to be amended, we will need to amend their constitution as well.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mary. Todd. Yes. Okay. Faculty Senate report. Is it Jared?
Good afternoon, everyone. Coming to you remotely.
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, good afternoon, Dr. Rowley, Chairman Gamble, members of the board, and colleagues. My name's Dr. Jared Valdez. The title recently earned, so excited about that. And I'm the president of the Faculty Senate, so good to see you all. Hope you're enjoying a cold spring so far. Hopefully it warms up soon. I'll share my report and then welcome any questions. First, I'd like to update you on our meeting with Bobby Mascareñas, who helped provide more clarification on how student concerns are handled by the campus and the legalities of that process. Although more clarification is sought, we believe that we were able to have a productive conversation. Bobby has agreed that there will be more attention given to communication and following up with concerned faculty. We recognize that there is a limit to what can be disclosed, of course. However, we also understand that there is a legal precedent that does require follow-up. Beyond that, it also builds a culture of trust and safety for everyone present at the college. So considering this, Bobby has communicated that she'll be happy to talk with any concerned faculty at any point in the process to her fullest legal abilities, of course. And she has offered these services via email, office hours, or even in a virtual setting over the phone. So we certainly appreciate Bobby's attendance at our last Senate meeting. Another matter I'd like to update you on is our mission to provide students feminine hygiene products in the bathrooms around campus. We're happy to report that dispensers are now being installed in the bathrooms around campus and will be operational soon. We found free dispensers, so that's awesome. We believe this was a glaring equity and accessibility concern that is soon to be resolved, so we appreciate that. On another note of positive change, Barnes & Noble will no longer be running the bookstore. There were numerous student and faculty complaints during their time with the SFCC, which certainly showed their inadequacy. And we look forward to finding a more productive partner in the future there for our students' sake, our faculty's sake, everyone's sake. In regard to our last professional development day, which many faculty felt was misused and unproductive because most of the time was dedicated to having faculty complete know-before training modules online. We are happy to announce that there will be a committee that will be in charge of how our next PD day is handled, which includes faculty members such as Dr. S.J. Miller. We believe this change will bring the faculty a genuine opportunity for a productive professional development. And finally, I'd like to briefly thank Chairman Gamble for his presence at the English department meeting yesterday. The chairman's genuine interest in the program, the future of our students, while expressing empathy and change towards the underfunding and support of our faculty is appreciated beyond measure. So we look forward to this new culture of inclusion and fairness amongst everyone here at our beloved SFCC. Our final Faculty Senate meeting of the semester will be held on May 5th. And thank you for your time. If you have any questions, I would be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Jared.
Yeah.
Comments, questions?
Mr. Chair, I have a comment. Jared, I want to congratulate you on defending your dissertation. I understand, was it yesterday, today?
It was last week.
Okay,
so
well.
Yesterday, but yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate you all so much. Thank you. Yeah. A lot of rest was needed after it, but you know, it's done now.
A major relief, huh?
Absolutely. And I can't tell you how much I look forward to working with you all and serving this great institution, which I graduated from once upon a time. So.
That's great.
Any other comments, questions for Jared? Jared, the issue of plagiarism, and presumably that includes nowadays AI.
Yeah.
what's the level of concern about that among faculty?
I think it's a concern that's held by all of us. And I've been happy to see the response that our staff has given and our faculty in response to that. In fact, our librarian, Sarah Hood, for instance, has been holding really productive meetings on ChatGPT, not only combating it and finding it, but how can we live, sort of what you were talking about in our meeting yesterday. How can we live with it in this new generation to be productive for our students? You know, there's questions that we can prompt our students to ask it that are actually working sort of as a peer review almost. And of course, now we're finding new ways in which to identify it and be able to find it if it's happening in an abusive manner, of course, such as plagiarism. So, of course, it's an ever-evolving thing, and we know that the new ChatGPT is going to be even more harder to spot and find. So I think solutions are on the board, and I certainly can't wait for the meeting tomorrow. I know we're going to have a lot of good speakers, and yeah, I can't wait to keep you guys, everyone updated on that, for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other comments or questions for Jared? If not, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Everyone have a great day. Good to see you. Thank you again.
The consent agenda. Approval of minutes from our last meeting. Can I have a motion to approve minutes from our last meeting?
Chair, I move to approve the minutes from the last meeting.
Okay.
Second.
Second. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, approved. Now, if we could review some policy questions, Laura, on some policy issues.
Mr. Chair, I think that Margaret is going to address some of the tweaks that you all requested to the admissions policy.
Okay.
Chair Gamble, President Rowley, members of the board, I'm pleased to be here sitting in for Dr. Ortiz Gallegos, excuse me, to give you an update on Policy 220. So you all will recall in February, this policy came before you, and there was some feedback, in particular from Board Member Wilson and Board Member Quintana, about the language that we had in here relating to students sending their transcripts, official transcripts, to the institution. And so we have worked with this language a bit, and I think made a change that's going to be much more clear than what we had before. And so if you will have a look at that, we've changed the language to say submitting an official transcript from any college or university previously attended enables students to apply for federal, state, and institutional financial aid and academic alignment. Students who would like the opportunity to apply for financial support or academic alignment must submit official transcripts to the Office of the Registrar. Students who do not wish to apply for federal, state, or institutional financial aid, or who do not wish to transfer academic credits, are not required to submit official transcripts. And we hope that that's, clear based on the comments that we received last time. Any questions about that?
I appreciate the effort. I think it is well written.
Thank you for your feedback. I appreciate that. The other item is Policy 2.6, and I just want to mention that if and when you approve 220, then we will repeal 2.6. So the changes that were made to 220 were focused on, in part, doing away with 2.6. We're always trying to look at our policies and make sure that we, consolidate where we can, because we certainly have a lot of them. And this is one of those times that we felt like we could consolidate. So if you all decide to approve 220, then we're going to repeal 2.6.
Okay. Any further comments on those two changes?
Do we need to, if we pass 220, do we also have to have a motion to repeal 2.6 separately, or is it that, can that just automatically happen because Margaret said so?
Laura, do you know the answer to that?
Good afternoon, Chair Campbell, members of the board, President Rowley, and Vice President Peters. Yes, once you, because you approve and it has been presented as merging 2-6 into 2-20, you don't need a separate motion.
Perfect. Thanks, Laura.
You're welcome.
Mr. Chair, actually, these are under the consent agenda, and actually, we could have approved the minutes and these with one motion to approve the consent agenda.
That's correct.
But since we didn't,
Okay.
Well, and there were a couple of questions on this from last time,
So they shouldn't have been on the
they
consent
probably
agenda?
shouldn't have been on
Okay.
the consent agenda, but that's, we'll just, if you wouldn't mind, if you could approve that one separately, we'll be good.
Okay. So do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
A second.
We're approving 220?
Yes.
Right. Which includes,
Right.
The elimination of
Yes.
2.6.
all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, unanimously
Aye.
approved. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Laura, wherever you are. Okay. Items removed from consent agenda, nothing. And now we go to, one of our favorite topics, financial reports. Okay, get your calculators out.
Mr. Chair, board members, President Rowley, since you like the report so much, we have two of them for you. May I share my screen, Mason? I'm on here.
Yeah, you'll have to send it so I can present it after this one. We can't read it.
All right. Well, let me see if I can do that real
So we can't click on the financial report on the email.
But we have the.
Oh, is it this one? Oh, okay. Oh, thank
quick.
you.
If you have it in front of you, I can
Yeah,
just.
we'll just do that.
I was thinking that, Mr. Chair, we'd be real brief on this because we are talking about budgets, through and through today, so I don't think we need to spend too much time on the March report. The main point is on the report ending March 31st for the year to date is that everything looks like it's going according to plan and everything's on track and on budget. You'll look at the cash and bank report. We have in our operating account about $48.5 million in the operating account compared to 37.3 last year. So an improvement there, or a growth in our operating cash account. We also have our reserve cash account for our NMFA bonds. This year we have $314,000 compared to $309,000 last year. We have some NMFA bond proceeds for the energy performance contract in the amount of $2.3 million this year. We had just a little bit higher last year at 2.35, and so that stayed flat over the period. However, we'll start spending that down on as soon as we can really start moving on the microgrid and energy performance contract. And our debt service account is 2.2 million this year compared to 4.9 last year. And so that's a timing issue on when we receive and book those debt service payments. So our cash is pretty good. Our ING fund at the end of March, we're 75% of the year, complete through the fiscal year to date. And so you'll notice that we have, we've received $32.3 million in revenue, and that's up 12% from the prior year. So that's really a positive thing for the college. On the expense side, we have expenses of $26.2 million, and they're up 15% there. In terms of our budget to actual, we've spent through the end of March 67% of what we've had budgeted. So at 75% of the year, that's right on track. Do you have any questions on ING? Again, it looks, everything's on track. It looks really good from our budget and finance perspective. If you turn to the Public Service Fund, you will see that our conference centers in the black. Our entire fund is on the positive, so that's a really good indicator of the health of this fund, because in the past we've seen challenges with Kids Campus, but we're getting a lot of funding and managing the resources really well in Kids Campus.
I have a question on that.
Yeah, yes.
So why is the revenue up so much on Kids Campus?
The revenue was budgeted at $950,000, and revenues at $906,000. So
I'm looking at it. I thought it's. Oh, I was looking at the one below. Firstborn.
Firstborn.
Firstborn is my question.
Yeah, that's at quite a bit of funding, and the big chunk of that is some junior bill money that we have in the amount of, I believe, a bit over $800,000 in junior money. And so
this session, or that was last session?
Last session, yes.
And since that was that all one-time only money, or a mix of both?
I believe it's one-time money. Yes.
So we used it for?
We're using it for, we have, I believe, a research project with UNM. Does that sound right, Margaret? So we're in partnership with UNM on a research project for firstborn home.
Oh, for evidence-based,
Yes.
the evidence-based test, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So Public Service Fund looks really good.
Why do we use the term units there? Total institutional units rather than dollars?
I think it's just in reference to each category. So conference center, kids campus, firstborn, higher ed. We could change that to dollars.
Is it a workday term?
Not a workday term, no.
Okay, any other questions on that March budget?
I have a question on the HEC, Chair. On the HEC, it looks like, let's see, you originally budgeted $95,000, and you have revenue transfer of $102,000.
Right, yes.
So was that the 95 and you transferred in?
No, we haven't transferred any in there. That's just revenue that's generated. So we've received the $95,000. That's the lease with New Mexico Highlands for the most part. And then we rent out a lot of the facility, and we account for it in that revenue fund.
Okay. So in the beginning then, for the original budget, you just counted on the 95,000 from Highlands?
That's correct. And then, yeah, in that budget on the left-hand side, we had budgeted 95,000, and we thought we'd have expenditures of 30,850, and the transfer would be back to ING, not a transfer into the public service fund.
Okay, so this transfer is in or out then under actuals for the 102? It's transfer out?
That would be out to ING if it stays the same. So that's available resources that we would transfer back to ING.
Okay, thanks.
Because those are unrestricted dollars in the higher ed center. Okay, and then the last page is the plant fund, and the real big story here is, we have about, through March, we have about a bit over $4 million in capital projects that we're working on. We've expended funds that we have available, whether it be revenue bonds, energy technology notes, local geo bond funding, or state bonds. You can see all the categories in there. So it's just really an indicator of the level of the projects that we're working on and completing. So a lot going on there.
Hey, Nick, Chair, I have a question. I'm back to the HEC.
Okay.
So that thing has been in the red for quite a few years, and it's not in the red now, is looking at this.
It's not in the red now, and I would say it really hasn't been over the years. And I think moving forward, we're going to we should be accounting for that as a public service activity under the conference center, because it's more of a leased space type facility, just like we would lease space on campus here and account for that in the conference center. I think that's just a better way to capture that. I think in the past we were looking at it as it was its own profit and loss center, but it's really not. It's really not like that, especially if you look at the HED kind of definitions for where different activities are supposed to go in the various funds that we have: ING, plant fund, public service fund, auxiliary, internal services.
Okay, thanks.
That is all I have, Mr. Chair.
That's all you have for the financial report for March?
Correct.
And do we need to approve that?
Yes, we
do.
Approve.
Okay. Do I hear a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Unanimously approved.
Thank you.
And now you can go on to your next.
The next one I have on on the agenda, I see that the approval of the HED third quarter financial report.
Move to approve.
Thank you.
Her calculator works pretty fast.
There's nothing but X's.
Yes, Mr. Chair, this is this real straightforward. It's kind of
Happens every quarter.
a simple report that just
Okay.
communicates to HED that we don't have any financial issues they need to be aware of.
Okay.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, unanimously approved. Okay, restricted and unrestricted bar.
Okay. So what we have for you today is the restricted and unrestricted bar for this current fiscal year, and What we're asking the board to approve is, let me bring it up here. Really, a true up of the FY23 current year budget. And this is a true up that really is related to our understanding that we're gonna have some additional revenues coming in from tuition and fees, which will be a bit over $580,000. Our operating mill revenue is increasing. It looks like it's increasing for the year at 1.3 million. And other sources revenue is going to be about 187,000 more than we originally had anticipated when we had you approve the budget for this year at this time last year. So we also have some expenses in this budget adjustment request, and we are requesting an increase in operation and maintenance of our plant ING exhibit, and increasing that expenditure by $500,000 due to increased utility costs for the college. Exhibit 10 is needing to be increased by $335,000 for increased instructional costs there. And some transfers are being increased by $600,000 in bar 1 for adding some additional funding to renewal and replacement of the plant fund. We just need to get the renewal and replacement to be more of what's actually occurring in terms of how we use those funds. So that's really the big story with this current year and our request for a budget adjustment. And with that, I can stand for any of your questions. And I believe we have Amy Tilley here too. She can help answer any questions you might have as well.
Questions, comments?
Amy, could you talk about what happens at the end of this year when we complete this year and the transfer of the funds, the ending fund balance, with what that looks like? You're on mute.
From ING?
Oh, yes, from ING. Just what that looks
Okay.
like. So you have your revenues with the bar.
So yes, let me just make this a little bit smaller. So basically, this is what we reviewed during the work session the other day. And you do have the bar that is occurring for fiscal year 23.
It's really small. It's really small. If you could make it a little bit larger, yeah.
And then at the bottom, and just know we're in this column here. At the bottom, you're seeing us do the transfer to cash reserves, and this is excess dollars that are going to cash reserves. And it is because of last year when we closed out, we had an excess cash, excess fund balance from last year, and we did anticipate some of that. And so we made a decision last year across the board to use that one-time excess monies in order to fund ongoing expenditures, and those ongoing expenditures was compensation. And so these excess cash that we're collecting here, they're going to be used over the next few years in order to balance out the budget to pay for those compensation increases that we incurred last year.
Chair, question. So just to make sure that we're clear, so those cash reserves then are restricted?
Could you get closer to your mic?
Sorry. So those cash reserves then are restricted, right, Nick? Like we talked about.
Member Pugh, we have two categories. So you remember when we passed the policy requirement for the cash reserves, we have that category. It's held in the plant fund. And that amount is what, Amy? 12.6 million?
Right.
Is that right?
Yes, let's go back over to
the required cash reserves through policy is 12.6. because of
Yes.
because of how we've ended the year last year and this year, in excess of that requirement, we have this additional amount of what totals out to be about $10 million. And we're using the $10 million very surgically and strategically in the next few years to get our budget to be balanced. So yes, the funds that we're using to make a balanced budget is the cash reserves that are in excess of what is required, and they're both held in the plant fund. Together, if you add both of them up, they're $22 million, but 12.6 of that is required for the policy, restricted, can't touch it. The balance of that is unrestricted, and we have more flexibility on that.
Okay, I'm just wondering how we're gonna, since we're counting on it in the future, right? How we're gonna ensure that it's there, that we don't wake up next fall and go, wow, we have 10 million extra dollars.
Right, exactly. That's kind of the challenge.
Like, whoa.
If a new board and a new administration, and they came in and said, hey, we have 10 million, let's utilize it. Well, this budget is being developed with the idea that the cash reserves in excess of the policy requirement is going to be earmarked for future years and to get the budget to be balanced.
Okay, so it's not restricted, but it's going to be earmarked.
Correct.
We're going to carry that forward.
And that may be, Mr. Chair, a good way to kind of make the motion if you do want to pass the bar like that.
Okay. All right, thanks, Nick.
And why isn't our budget balanced?
Because we overspent on salaries last year.
Mr. Chair, and go ahead.
I think we agreed to overspend on salaries last year with the understanding we would be in deficit for 4 years and that we'd use this money. I think we agreed to that as a board last year, whether it was a great idea or not. We did agree to that.
We agreed to.
Right, and Mr. Chair, if I could add to our revenues, it's partly the way we've budgeted and shown our revenues. We have excess in our mill account, and then our tuition revenue is actually higher than we thought it'd be because of contract training. And so last year we did show a deficit, but it's because of the high cash reserve. I mean, it's like we've imposed this on ourselves. It's not that we don't have that. We still have way more money than we ever have before, but it's the way we're showing it.
And Mr. Chair, yes, all out of the universe of what, when you have $10 million for the college that is sort of like something that wasn't expected, the options for utilization of those funds are really like, and it's one-time funding, right? It would be used for like a building, construction of a building. We don't need that. We have plenty of buildings. Our master plan doesn't say that we even need more additional buildings or facilities. So we kind of check that off the list of options. Another option is to just get that funding and invest it and kind of utilize the investment earnings off of that funding. However, the market's really only returning 3 to 5%, and the college had not had a really strong increase to compensation for years, and that's why we had proposed to the board last year that out of all the priorities, that's probably the one that really needed the most attention, and so we committed to that, knowing that we could be really smart using and leveraging this funding in the future years. And you'll see, as we talk about the upcoming year FY24 budget, we'll discuss the future years and the deficit planning that we have is honestly just the worst case scenario, so that the board knows that with the most conservative numbers that, you know, we come up with, we would have to face a deficit. However, we don't think that's going to materialize actually. But we wanted to give you the worst kind of, most conservative, most, you know, to avoid any kind of surprises in the future. We actually I don't think the deficits will actually materialize. But just for planning purposes, we felt like it's important to kind of just show that.
Okay, any more questions, comments?
I'm just wondering, because I do remember a time not that long ago when a president and financial officer seemed to be really confused about what money was available and not, and put us into a big deficit that really was bad for morale and everything on the campus. Is there any way to put that in a separate account or a box around it so that it would be virtually impossible for anyone to be confused about what that money is intended for?
Or can I add on to that question, or is that the earmark you're talking about? If we make a motion with an earmark, then it's kind of...
I think that's the policy that you set with the budget, if you earmark it that way.
Right, it is earmarked by policy. I mean, we'd be violating our own policy if we dipped below that.
Well, so, okay, just clarification. I'm not talking about the policy money. I'm talking about the other 10 million. I'm not talking about the 12.6. Is that what you were talking about?
Yeah, no, just whatever we can do, if it's earmarking it in our resolution, but I think we need to make sure there's a really clear red line around that cannot be used for any other purpose until we're sure that we're not in deficit.
Well, Mr. Chair, I think we'll see the financial statements every month, and we'll know if we're dipping into that money. So it's our responsibility to watch that.
And presumably the board will be watching it and will make decisions. There could be other circumstances which arise that would require expenditure of those funds for other purposes.
However, if we earmarked it, then we'd have to vote on it first, right?
Chair Gamble, if I may, those monies are earmarked in our capital outlay dollars, and you do have a report that you get in your monthly packet, and those are the monies that are in this column. I've colored them a little bit more distinctly now so that you know these are institutional funds, but those monies that are labeled unallocated, those are the monies that we're talking about that we're using for future year to balance out the ING money and to make sure that we do have a balanced budget. And we do have a balanced budget on the ING side with the utilization of these cash reserves.
And Mr. Chair, you'll see that every month in the financial reports. So we'll really keep our eyes peeled with that money being presented and approved by you all as you approve each and every monthly financial report.
So, Mr. Chair,
Please.
I'm not sure I think we can earmark it. I don't know really what, I mean, who knows what's going to happen. And we might have to get that money for something else. And I don't know that earmarking it, by saying we're earmarking it, really does protect it in any way. I think the protection is we are watching the budget. Right. We have confidence in the qualifications of our CFO, our president. I think we're on top of the money as a board, and that's our responsibility every month to make sure that money is being placed where we want it to be.
Exactly. And the other metric to really keep yourselves apprised of is the cash report. Because as you notice, when we reviewed the cash report, there was about 53 million in there. Now, of course, a lot of that is restricted money. 12.6 million is the policy reserve requirement. 10 million of that is the amount in excess of the policy requirement. So if you see that dwindling down abruptly and at a very steep pace, that's when you really would want to ask questions and know like what's happening there. Why is that dwindling so quickly? You know.
Another question, Mr. Chair.
Please.
So that $53 million is in what kind of account?
Oh, it's made up of our operating account holds a lot of our unrestricted dollars, but it does hold some restricted dollars related to like our energy, educational technology notes. I think we have about $7 million in educational technology notes that can only be used for software things. And then we have our debt service is at Bank of Albuquerque. On that, we have the reserve for our New Mexico Finance Authority revenue bond. That's being held at the Bank of Albuquerque as well.
Well, what kind of interest are we getting on these accounts?
Very little, but we just did meet with. We did meet.
2%, 1%, 3%?
We just met with our Century Bank operating folks, where we hold a large chunk of all these funds, and they have a special program that we just were enrolled in, where we were able to generate around 4% back.
Okay.
On the returns.
On all of that money?
On all of that
On the
money.
whole 53 million, 4%.
I believe so, yes. I'd have to check it, but yes, that's how I understand it as I sit here.
Could we just have clarification next month?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So that's both at Century and Bank of Albuquerque?
Primarily at Century.
Other comments, questions on that? If
I'll make
not-
a motion to approve the bar.
Okay. Second?
A second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Unanimously approved. Okay. Restricted and unrestricted.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And now we are moving on to the upcoming year budget that we have to, we have to turn both of these, both the bar and the FY24 budget in by May 1st to HED. And I'll just to start out by saying that really the big kind of items in the FY24 budget are related to, let's see here, what my notes. The majority of the expenses are related to a 6% pay increase that the legislature did approve. And on that note, the legislature, when they approve a compensation increase for institutions of higher ed, it usually covers, in this case, this year, it's about 44% of the actual cost. In past years, it was 30 cents on the dollar, it was 30%, but it's gone up a bit. Amy did calculate the number of the total cost of compensation and benefits for the ING employees, and that was 1.7 million. We received from the legislature $758,000. I think I have that number correct, to fund that. So the college had to shore up $1 million of that 6% pay increase. And that's normal when that happens. Good news is, if you look at the glass half full, it's better than previous years when it was 30%, but you know, we'll take it. And so that's it. The revenues in mill levy are coming in pretty strong. Our reappraisal and assessment value, as we'll talk about here in a little bit later, is very strong in the county. There's a lot of construction where it does really aid the college's finances really well, and so then the state funding that we've received this session is really helpful too. Anything else you want to add, Amy, on that?
Yes, 1 second.
While we're waiting, Mr. Chair, So the 758,000 was for the 6% salary. How much additional did we get from HED?
We would,
What we got from HED.
That's the total we got from HED? I thought there were some other tweaks that,
That was the salary, and then the cost was what, about 1.2 million or something?
1.7 is the cost. We got, from the funding bill, the $758,000.
Sorry.
And then they build in, Becky, the increase to the base, just as.
yeah, that's what I was asking.
It's
What was
just
the
a-
increase to the base, separate from the salary money, the inadequate
So-
salary money?
So the base,
Should've been
you can
2%.
see here, the base was originally 11 million last year, and now it's 12.4 million. And when we did have the ING and the ERB increase on these line item increases from last year, that gave us a grand total of 12 million. And we still went up from there because they rolled in these costs into there, and then they still increased the base from there too. So we went from 12 million with rolling these all in up to 12.4 million.
12.4.
And then the line item for the increase for compensation is a $758,300. And just real quick on, just letting you see the numbers on that. Basically, the state comp increases here. If we're looking at unrestricted increase for all of current funds, comp only, it's 1.2 million. With fringe, it's 1.7. And the state share of that 1.7 is 44%. And if we look at just comp on its own, which would be a weird, strange thing to do because you can't have one without the other, it's a package deal, it would be 60%. But if we look at just ING, on the compensation with fringe, it's almost 1.5 million. And so that state funding of that 758,000 is 50% of that. And then just to also talk about looking at our distribution of revenue, the state monies for us is around 32% of our revenues, while the local appropriations is 54% of our revenues.
Okay, so I'm still not clear on, okay, we got 758,000 for compensation, and then we got 2% of whatever our prior appropriation from HED had been for IMG. So what is that amount?
It looked like it was 400, so about
400.
407.
Okay.
100, yeah.
Okay, that was my.
But it's interesting math because,
Yes,
Mr.
it always
Chair,
is.
it's always interesting math because they do increase your base, which is going in the right way, and it's very helpful, but that all ends up having to shore
Right.
up the
Yes.
compensation
Right,
increase.
right. So there's really nothing towards anything else other than compensation.
And there is
So it was an additional 3% gain from what we received last year. So we got that 12 million last year. If we look at the base to base, it's a 13% increase, but if we look at the including comp in there, it's a 3% increase. If we compare this to this, it's a 3% increase.
Yeah, that's an interesting math because we did a pay increase in FY for this fiscal year, and they gave us money for that pay increase. That pay increase is recurring, so it stays in FY '24, right? So you have to roll that money in, and then the new money is the 750 plus a 3%. It does come out to about $1 million, so it is helpful.
Totally clear.
Yes, legislative and HED math is just really interesting.
Now, there is some potential that some money may still come to us from HED to help pay for our additional cost of health insurance as well. So that's not clear what that is, but maybe.
That is a possibility, Mr. Chair, Member Wilson, that is a possibility. HED is aware that 6 colleges had this unexpected expense. The public schools are all receiving funding from the PED fund to cover that increase. We are having to fund it. And so they are looking at our insurance expenses, and they're going to help us work with DFA and see if we can come up with a solution.
And then if I may step back to the actual operating budget, in your packet you do have an extract of the first few pages of the actual budget. And this is what we are after. This whole entire time, we keep meeting and talking. This is what we need to, having the board approve here. And this is where we would have the board chair sign off on here on these amounts. But this is a roll-up of basically the other pages. And on the other pages, let me go down to them, you have Exhibit 1. And in Exhibit 1, this rolls up from Exhibit 2, so you really should start with Exhibit 2. So I'm just going to go down to Exhibit 2 real quick. And here's Exhibit 2. And Exhibit 2 is ING. So you can see here our original budget. You're seeing the bar in here, and you are seeing our proposed budget. And you are also seeing side by side here is the restricted budget. So you have unrestricted and the restricted in each one of these columns. And so there you can see the variances between here and there, that change, how the amounts change. And then this is what we are proposing for the fiscal year 24 budget. We did review it extensively during the work session. So all these numbers do roll back into Exhibit 1. So we'll just go back over here, and that's where you see the ING total on here. Additionally, you are seeing, and you get down to the lower section in here, you're seeing the activity and plant funds, and those have been added since we last met. And so the big thing that you always look for when the budget is being compiled, oops, I'm sorry, I went too far down, is that transfers should always net out to zero, because they're just monies moving in and out. There shouldn't be monies left over, so you're always looking for transfers to be at zero. And then at the very end, you want to look at ending balances, and there's only certain accounts that you would expect there to be ending balances on. You'll notice all the restricted accounts are zero, because those are monies that basically grants they're reimbursed most of the time, and so they have usually a zero and should normally have an ending balance of zero. So that's why those are all zeroed out. And then we do carry a fund balance in ING, Student Social, which is Exhibit 15. They carry a fund balance. Public Service, you're seeing the carrying of a fund balance here, and that fund balance is for Kids Campus. And we have them carrying a fund balance because they have a little bit left over from previous, and they still have that remaining on there. And then you do have what's going on with our capital outlays, renewal and replacements, and then retirement of indebtedness. As far as one thing I'd like to highlight though in SBDC, we came forward with a fund balance of $2.6 million in here. That is, all of that is SBDC except for this $237,000. We just are carrying that forward this year. And then if you go down to expenditures, you're going to see that SBDC's expenditures have increased from the 5.5 to the 7.8. That's working with the assumption that they would spend their fund balance. It more than likely will not spend their entire fund balance, but we have that latitude in there for them to do that. And so then what we'll do when we adjust things with the bar next year, it'll get readjusted on that point too. And overall, that is, I know we spoke extensively the other day. It was a lot of fun, I'm sure. Best time anybody had about our budget. Don't really have anything new to add. If anybody's got any other questions, I'm happy to do it.
Questions, comments?
I'll just make one comment. I'm supporting this budget this year, but in the past I've had some conversation about when we give similar percentage raises across the board, then it creates what we've talked before here about wage compression, and I get worried about wage stratification, which obviously somebody who's making $150,000 a year gets a 4% raise. That's much more than somebody who had a $25,000 a year job. So in the future, I'm going to engage in conversations with the board about whether we might want to go to tiered systems where the people making in the stratosphere of within the college budgets might get lower percentage raises, while people at the bottom would get higher percentage raises. And that's not for this year's budget, but it's something I want to begin a conversation with the board about over the coming year.
Mr. Chair, Member Wilson, if I may, we have done that in the past, but one thing, the language this year, the word average is not in the language, so to technically fulfill the mandate of the bill, it would be 6% to everyone, at least.
And I'm not suggesting for this year's budget, it's just a conversation I'd like us to have, and perhaps something I'll lobby for in next year's budget.
we probably also need to lobby the legislature to up the percentage of the coverage that they provide. I
That-
mean,
Yes.
They do every
Yes, that is
year.
it.
yeah.
But I believe that average language was in there and the governor vetoed it.
That's correct.
Yeah. Because usually the legislature wants it to be the average.
Mhm.
Okay, motion?
Motion?
I move to approve the 24 budget.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Unanimously approved. Pay schedules.
Thank
Here?
you, Amy.
Oh, Amy, sorry.
Amy, can you pull up the pay schedules just so we can kind of look at them? These
You got it.
These schedules, Mr. Chair, they haven't changed from what we presented during the budget work session. And they're the pay schedules that really go along with the budget that you just approved.
So this is the pay schedule for the non-collective bargaining unit faculty members. Schedule has been aged 6%. The next schedule in your packet is the adjunct schedule. That's also been aged 6%, and an additional step has been added. And then, as we spoke previously, adult ed now has a standalone schedule to make that a little bit more functional for them. And so this is a new schedule that had not existed previously. And then the staff schedule has been aged 6%, just as we reviewed previously. Kids Campus is also in the packet. That was also aged 6%. And then finally, you do have a miscellaneous schedule, which that one has is stated is the same as what it was last year on that one, except for the changes of adult ed is no longer part of the miscellaneous wage schedule, as they have now their own pay schedule. So that is the pay schedules.
Comments, questions? The numbers on this, in all of these tables, what are these numbers? I can see that they move in the right direction, but I'm not sure what they are. So if you're looking at the salary schedule by degree for, 856, what is that number?
I think you're referring to the adjunct schedule, is that?
Yes, sorry.
That is the rate an adjunct member would get to teach a course, and so this is the amount per credit hour that they would receive if they meet these various qualifications. So if they have this much of experience and they have this degree, you would just go walk yourself over to that, and then that's the amount that would be per credit hour for the course that they are teaching, for the most part.
So those are dollar amounts in the.
But it's a dollar amount for teaching one course?
No, per credit hour.
1 credit hour.
Or 1 credit hour? Okay. It would be nice if this was labeled in some way that was the case, because otherwise it's really, not comprehensible. And I guess that's true, it's true for the other tables as well. If they could be labeled so that people could read them and understand what those numbers are.
I think we can make that adjustment. It's pretty easy one to do. Yeah.
Other comments, questions? Okay.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. Okay, tuition and fees.
Mr. Chair, board members, and President Rowley, the big story here is we have built this current FY24 budget on a no tuition or fee increase, and so that's just what we're memorializing in this agenda item. There's no tuition or fee increase.
Okay.
So why do we have to vote on it?
Just to maintain for the new fiscal year.
But we didn't increase it, so.
Well, probably because it's a time issue. It's this year's.
And I think the lawyers, they asked us to put this on.
Because the lawyers,
you know how lawyers
the lawyers required it.
Okay, move to approve.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Unanimously approved. Okay. Review approval on third amendment to collective bargaining. Did we do that? No, we didn't do that. All we did was discuss it.
Move to approve.
Do that if you want.
Now you're getting the
Board
hang
member.
Yeah.
Chair Gamble, President Rowley, members of the board. I am here to present to you the third amendment to the collective bargaining agreement between Santa Fe Community College and SFCC AAUP, and that includes an Article 42.1 on compensation. You'll see that outlines the 6% increase. Then Article 42.4, 42.5, 42.6, and 42.7 all cover workload and are the results of the workload MOU that we've been working on for the past couple years. Then Articles 28.1 and 28.3 address the insurance contribution rates. Then you will see the faculty salary schedule for full-time collective bargaining faculty, and that salary schedule reflects the 6% increase that is discussed in Article 42.1 in the Third Amendment. I'm happy to answer any questions you all have.
Questions, comments?
I want to congratulate you on a really successful bargaining, and I think that the work with the Faculty Management Committee over the year really set the stage, and I think that some maturation of the relationship between the union and the college, and I think we're moving in a great direction and appreciate your efforts.
Thanks so much, Member Wilson, and I agree with you, absolutely.
And I'd like to second that congratulations.
Thanks, Chair Gamble.
Critical process.
Thank you. We have great teams, the union team and the management team. So we had a productive bargaining session this year.
Good.
Productive and short.
Productive and short, that's right.
A move to approve.
Okay. Move?
Yes.
Second?
Move to approve.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimously approved.
Yay.
Audit contract. We have a new auditor now, right?
No, we have one more year left with.
Oh,
her.
one?
Yes, Mr.
Okay.
Chair.
I thought there.
Is this the 1 year, or we have 1 year after this?
This would be the year they would start in May for the fiscal year 23 audit, which will end in June. At June 30th, they'll do that audit, and then that's it, and we'll have to source another auditor. But yes, Mr. Chair, in your packets you have the standard contract language. It's required by the state auditor. We have to select our auditor and submit that contract back to have the board approve that contract and send it back to OSA by May 1st as well. And so with that, we have a really good working relationship with Axiom, and we have 1 more year, and I think it's going to be really important that we work with them because we have made the big change from Banner to Workday, and they originally understand our college pretty well. so they won't have a lot of that learning curve to see how we, have had and handled our different processes in the past. So I think it's a good thing for the college.
And by the time next year at this time, we will have already transitioned completely to Workday?
We will still be in the middle of the student project, but the financial piece, yes.
So it'll be easier for a new
Yes.
auditor.
I don't know if I would say easy.
I have a question.
Good.
So is this 80,000 about what we've been paying?
Yes, we did actually do a quick proposal on this one,
Uh-huh.
and they did come in as the lowest respondent to that proposal.
Okay.
And I think it is exactly the same amount that we had last year.
Okay.
Chair, quick question. Nick, how many years have we used this consultant? Is this our fifth?
Fifth.
Eighth year.
Eighth, okay, all right. Okay.
Okay.
I know, it's been every report I've seen, so I wasn't sure how long. But
Yeah,
good
they
job.
recently, I think last year or the year before, the state auditor's office increased the time you could have and use the same auditor.
Okay.
For 8 years. I think they moved it from 4 to 8. It really just helps because the better the auditor understands your system,
Yep.
the less confusion is over audit findings and things like that.
Right.
Yep.
Okay. Approval?
I move to approve.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimously approved.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
Bond.
Approval of bond resolution relating to the proposed issuance of $23 million in tax-exempt general obligation bonds.
Yeah, Mr. Chair and board members and President Rowley, I think it's been about 4 years since we had brought this item up to the board. I have Eric Harrigan he's with RBC Financial Advisors, and he offers us our bond finance advising. And so he's with us today. And then we also have our bond attorney from Sutton Thayer, who's on the call as well, I believe. Robert Johnson.
Okay.
And so, Mr. Chair, if Eric could walk us through our bond advisors, they usually put together a financing plan for any upcoming bonds. If he could just walk us through that plan to kind of let you know where we are and things like that. He'll review the assessed valuation numbers and things like that that are very important in considering a new bond mill levy issuance.
That'd be great.
Talk fast.
So, good afternoon, members of the Board of Regents and President Raleigh, Eric Harrigan with RBC Capital Markets. So the last time that the community college went out to an election was 2018. The last series of those bonds were actually issued back in 2019. And so the college has gone for a few years without any authorization. And so we're coming up on a point where reauthorization is necessary to maintain the college's historical debt service tax rate. As was kind of mentioned earlier in the meeting about property tax revenues, the college's tax base has grown quite well over the past couple of years, especially this current year. The college saw over 8% growth in your tax base. Your tax base it now eclipses $8 billion. And so over the last 5 years, you've seen it on average about 4.4% growth in your tax base. When you look, however, long-term over a 10-year period, it's closer to about 2.3%. So we take all of that into consideration as we start to formulate your capacity what you can, what you can reasonably issue over a 4-year period of time and continue to maintain your tax rate. So currently, the college's debt service tax rate is 65 cents. It has been at that level since tax year 2018. And the recommendation for the election resolution that you'll be considering is essentially, continuing with that 65-cent tax rate. So based upon growth assumptions of 3% for tax year 24 and 25, and then 1% growth for a couple of years, just kind of as the housing market starts to sort of slow down, we wanted to take that into consideration in our finance plan. And then we get back to 2.5% growth on a, projecting out in the future. So based upon, those assumptions, we have recommended that the college go to voters this November, requesting in the amount not to exceed $23 million. In comparison purposes, in 2018, the college asked voters for $17 million. Assuming that, those growth assumptions hold, the college will be able to go back to voters in 4 years from now, in November of 2027, for an additional $23 million in authorization. The college has very rapidly declining debt service. It employs a cycling program, which allows the college to issue bonds every couple of years and continue to maintain that 65-cent tax rate. And then from a timing perspective, subject to your approval of the election resolution today, that would then be submitted to HED for their approval at their June meeting. And with that, I would be happy to answer any questions about the finance plan. And if not, happy to turn it over to Robert with Sutton Law Firm.
Does all of your planning take into account the current craziness in the economic markets in the United States and the globe?
So that's a good question. So as we project out your finance plan, we assume that your borrowing costs average between 5.5% and 6%, which is significantly above where interest rates are currently. However, we have continued to, see interest rates, climb, especially short-term rates, climb at a pretty significant clip. If the college is able to borrow at less than those rates in the future, that will just create additional capacity in future election years.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments, questions?
So we're retiring in 23 our 2 educational technology notes. Is that right? I'm looking at this chart.
Yes, that's correct. They're short-term
Yes.
technology notes that, for technology, it expires pretty quickly. So.
Right. And then our 2013
in 24.
GEO bond in 24.
Mm-hmm.
That is correct. I will just note that there is a typo. The 2023 education technology notes will mature in 24. And then beginning in 2025, all that the college will have outstanding will just be the 2018A and the 2019 bonds.
Okay. So we're proposing 23 million to be voted on in the election in November of '23 and go and be sold when?
January. When do you think, Eric?
Probably in the spring, early spring, so January, February timeframe of next year. And part of that will also, be dependent upon, when the college needs funds. There is a requirement that when you issue tax-exempt bonds, you have to spend those funds within a 3-year period. And so long as the college believes it can, spend those, monies within that time, then February, from just a natural ebb and flow of the markets, is considered a good time to sell municipal bonds, because there's more money chasing fewer municipal bonds at that time. So you kind of create a supply and demand, and that has historically been a good month to sell municipal debt.
Any other comments, questions?
Couple things. One is, if we pass this and then the voters vote in favor of this in the fall, allows us the opportunity to borrow, not the obligation. Or are we obligated then to borrow the money if we pass the bond?
That's a good question. So the election resolution is an up to amount. It limits the total amount that the college can borrow, but it is not an obligation for the college to borrow those funds.
Okay.
Are we going to have any conversation about? Now, I guess I'm sitting here as a member of the community, representing members of our community, and from the community, when we go to vote on that, the maintaining historical tax rate of 65% is not a good argument that people are going to go vote for our bond. It's what we're going to do with the money. So I guess I'd like to hear more about where the money is, because when we go to, I assume as we go to bond in the fall, we're going to be making a compelling argument to our citizens about what is it that we're going to do with this money. Otherwise, I don't expect they'll vote for it. So I guess I'm feeling like as a board member, I want to hear the compelling argument.
You want to walk through the projects?
So, yes. So, Mr. Chair, this is all the entire proposal of the $23 million is based upon our recently revised facility master plan, and there's a variety of projects in there, but our planners, and we did meet with the community early on. It went through about a year's process. We had a couple of different committees. One was an outward-facing public committee that the community was invited to come and participate in our master planning efforts, and we went through a lot of different workshops and activities to identify some projects that our planners have prioritized for us. And so
Is that the language here in the first part of this?
Yes.
That's going to be the language on the bond?
Correct.
On the ballot?
Yeah,
Okay.
they have specific statutory requirements on how to put that language together, so it's broad. But what it really is, what's included in the agenda request form for this meeting is that the priority projects really are related to some life, health, and safety projects. We have needs for emergency management, fire suppression, and that's a very large project to keep students and our employees and the community safe when they're in the building, plus it's code requirement, essential code requirement that we have there. We have an outside air project that is programmed into this funding. It's for the trades and advanced technology wing of the college, where we've actually started the planning and design for that project to get to meet code requirements related to CO2 levels in the building, and it's actually a pretty expensive project to go through that. What else do we have? We have, you'll notice around campus that the stucco and the exterior envelope of the building is in a lot of need for repair. I think a lot of sections have not been repaired since the beginning of the college when it was first constructed. And so if we let that deteriorate, it does really compromise, the safety of the internal contents of the building. So that's another.
What's this student hub project? What does that mean?
It was, that one was really rooted out from, and Becky can elaborate on this as well, but it was a real organic thing that came up with the college in the meetings. And there's a definite need for a better design for the student services area of the college, meaning the welcome and advising center, the cashiers, and that all could be reconstructed in a way where it serves students better. The entrance at the front of the building is another priority for, the planners had identified some transformational projects, so that's in the transformational list.
Whatever that means.
Yeah, and
Architect word.
yeah, so the front entrance, because there is confusion on entering the building.
Yeah, which door do you go in?
And then also on that, we do have just lab space and classroom space that needs updating, and the way things are now, it's very expensive. I mean, just the inflation is just astronomical on these things. So 23 million seems like a lot of money, but with that factoring in, it's just the way, I mean, it's what things cost now.
Mr. Chair and Member Wilson, I do want to add too that one of the things NMICC is paying to conduct an economic impact study, and Santa Fe Community College and CNM have been very eager to be first in that study because we have bond questions up this year, but that would give a really good presentation about the impact that the college has on the community and the return on investment. So it's, more than a 2-for-1 investment, but to show more clearly some of that impact.
I think previously we've also spoken about the possibility of having some basic information distributed to the board and other members of the community so that they could help to discuss the bond issue in public with people.
Mr. Chair, we have hired a marketing firm, the same marketing firm that has handled the promotion for the general obligation bond for the past few. And so once, we didn't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. So the first step really is in getting the board to pass this piece, and then we will begin. It starts in the summer in earnest to begin the campaign for educating the community and answering questions. But there will, of course, be a lot of education for the board and really talking points that the marketing consultant will make it pretty clear and easy so that we're all kind of on script and know where we're supposed to go and what we're supposed to say.
Right. Yeah. Okay, great.
Oh, Chair, I have a question.
Yes.
So, Nick, if I understand this right, then we're using the facility conditions index that we had done to help prioritize then and manage our, I guess, master asset list or whatever that we're putting on here, right?
Yes, this was the first time in this current master plan that we included a facilities condition indexing and assessment. Mm-hmm. And, that's where they take a look at each and every building and the needs and things like that. And so, yes, these life safety projects really come off of that list.
Come out of that list, okay. Yeah. Which was pretty high on their priority, if I recall right.
Yes.
So, okay. Thanks.
Other comments, questions? If not, could I have a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Second?
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous.
I'm going to abstain on this one.
Okay. Amendment number 3.
Thanks, Eric.
Upgrade our aging.
Okay, the next one to continue this marathon session. Sorry, these things are just all, we needed them this month just for the timeliness of meeting deadlines and on these contracts, just being able to make the projects happen.
Right.
Yes, so this is an amendment 3 to an agreement for audio visual upgrades. And this is just essentially, Mason can actually talk about this better than I can, but it's to do 11 more classrooms and just to extend the original contract to be able to do more, which is a very important thing for audio visual and hybrid remote teaching.
Question, Mr. Chair.
Please.
And what pot of money is this coming out of? The ed tech notes? Okay.
Chair, I have a question.
Go ahead.
Actually, I have a question. When we look at the grants further on, there's a grant for 2.9 million that has 1.5 in it for the High Flex Classrooms project. Is that a separate project? Does that help this project? Is it part of the 11 classrooms? Is it totally separate?
Corey, you're muted, but we,
Oh, good, Corey.
Still muted.
You're still muted.
You're muted, Corey.
Veterans Legacy. What, you don't have accreditation? No, that kind of accreditation.
Now, Corey's having problems doing that.
Nope.
Makes you feel better, huh, George?
Now?
Yes.
Sorry, I have 4 different microphones apparently on my one machine. Member Pugh, I can answer that. So, we have a continuing effort to upgrade all of our classrooms to the latest technology. So, our intention is to complete these 11, but we still have quite a few more classrooms to upgrade, so we'll continue that work with the grant funding from here on out. So,
Okay, so it's separate and it's not a joint. Okay. All right, thank you.
thank you.
So this is the latest technology for creating high flex, blah, blah, blah kind of classrooms.
Yes, we work with our vendor to get the latest technology that's available. We're using best practice standards that have been used across many campuses. So, and we do, just so everyone's aware, we meet with the users of every classroom and the departments. And so if there's any sort of minor tweaks or things that we can do to improve our standards, we do that. So.
Okay, thanks, Corey. Other questions, comments? Okay. Do I hear a motion to approve? Second?
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Unanimously approved. Thank you, Corey.
Thanks to all of you.
And okay, last but not least,
The last one. Hooray.
energy
Yes.
performance.
This is the energy performance contract revision. This is our contract that we have with Siemens. And as we mentioned when we met back in December, due to the delay complications and work that needed to be done with P&M and an interconnection study and after that an interconnection agreement, our project was really delayed. Then at the same time you had the inflation issues, supply chain issues. So it's increased the cost of the project, and so that's what we're bringing to you today. And I have Andrea Mueller and Dobby with, and Bill Kipnis as well. Come on up. And so what we're asking you to approve today is to amend the original contract to increase it by $1,487,255, and for a new total project of $9.6 million, including a contingency of $173,000. And that's really what we have today in order to be able to bring to make the project move on and get it to completion.
Questions, comments?
Chair, I have a question. So this has been a long project, but I'm glad we're almost to the end. On the schedule baseline of everything, right? There was boilers, LED lights, low flow toilets, everything. Where are we at on that schedule? How close are we to the end? How much is left?
Thank you for that question, and greetings to the board and Dr. Rowley. Nice to see you in person. So approximately 50% of the project was for energy efficiency measures, and those are complete.
And those include what for the energy efficiency?
Those included the replacement and the retrofit of your lighting systems to LED, those that hadn't been done by the facilities department.
Mm-hmm.
The next largest one was a replacement of the campus-wide heating system.
The boilers?
With boilers, very high efficiency boilers. The others were miscellaneous, things like fan hoods and minor items that were old and needed replacing, and with that came energy savings.
Okay, so the energy savings ones were 50% complete?
No,
now?
Well, the entire project saves energy.
Okay.
The items that are not attached to the microgrid are complete, leaving the microgrid. And it was the microgrid that was subject to the interconnection application and agreement with PNM.
All right, and so out of the whole project, how big is the microgrid? How much do we have left?
We have about $5.5 million left.
In the whole project. How about schedule time?
Schedule, current estimate, we would be approximately a year from today if equipment arrives on time. Yeah.
So if it doesn't arrive on time, can we expect a change order?
Right now, we believe this is the final price for the microgrid, and that this change order is the best we could do with the 2-year delay from PNM. So we can say today we expect this to be the final price. Can I guarantee that there's no further change orders? Probably. I probably can't make that guarantee today. I would say that despite the price increase, we're proud of the small amount of it over the 2-year period, given supply chain and inflation issues. So I can't give you a 100% guarantee, but I believe this is the end.
Okay, well, this is the second change order, right? So if you have power over the stars and can make them align, of course, we want you to do that. But okay, so 1 year from today, if everything aligns, the microgrid, we could expect it to be complete.
Yes.
Okay.
That is the schedule.
Okay, thanks.
And the microgrid both creates resiliency, but also can increase our capacity for managing some of our electrical costs.
Exactly right. I mean, we see the three big advantages. One, of course, is lowering your electricity costs, lowering your obligation to PNM, both on an energy basis and a peak demand basis. The ability to save money on peak demand, we think, will rise as time goes on. The second, of course, resiliency. This will be the first microgrid in New Mexico to actually enable a campus or any large cluster of buildings to actually separate an island from PNM. And the third, of course, is curriculum. This project produces 2 microgrids, one almost exclusively for teaching, and that's going to operate the energy system of your greenhouses. That will communicate with a campus-wide microgrid in a nested microgrid operation that we think you're going to be very, very proud of and is going to attract a lot of attention. There aren't that many nested microgrids, one for teaching, one for operations in the world. So hang in there.
We're almost there, huh?
We've all hung in there. It's been tough. And if I could, and just take a second, I do want to call out a couple colleagues have joined today who have been on this from the beginning and have been really important. The first one I want to mention is Dean Gakos, who's over there, who is your lead engineer, and he works tirelessly, and I call him at all hours with all kinds of worries. And then head of operations for Siemens Distributed Energy Systems is Kevin Brown, who's been on this project since day one also. And Kevin is responsible for the construction, and our construction manager, Monty Montgomery, who's playing lacrosse in, where is he? Hungary? Prague? Couldn't be here. So he reports to Kevin, and Kevin's got a lot of responsibility. So I'm up here, and you guys know me, but I did want to mention these guys have traveled to see you today. And any questions you have for them, please fire away.
Sure. Another question. So are we going to run this? Are we going to run the campus off-grid when you have this established before you leave? So the point is to be able, the resiliency, right? To be able to run the campus off-grid with our microgrid. Are we going to do that before you guys leave? When you complete the project, everything's in place, are we going to execute and run it, run the campus off-grid?
Okay, I get the question now for sure. So as far as us leaving, I think we're 178 years in business, so we're not.
Oh, I don't mean leaving. I mean, once the project's complete, we go through the checklist, everything's good. Will we have exercised that microgrid to run the campus off-grid?
Yes. This will be a fully commissioned and trained system. Those costs are included in the project. And service going forward also is anticipated. Year one service, in other words, we forgot what we're supposed to do when this happens. That's part of the warranty of the project. And then I think your facilities department will decide after that to what extent, they want us here on a permanent contract or not.
Okay.
But that's how it'll go.
Cool. Can't wait. I want to be here that day. See how it goes.
Other questions, comments?
A comment, Mr. Chair, and just for the sake of bringing this contract and project to completion, another important kind of deadline is that we have outstanding revenue bonds through the New Mexico Finance Authority that were basically issued for this project. We had to, because of the delay with PNM, we had to ask for an extension. They've extended it to 2025. That's it. I mean, if we don't complete by then, it's highly unlikely that they'll extend any further, and we just won't have that money.
We're completing in 1 year. That gives us a few extra months.
There you go.
Right?
Well, and proven. Admittedly, maybe not perfect.
Just one question.
Please.
The money comes from the bond, or where does it come from?
Yes, some of the money comes from the revenue bond. We really have to make up this new amount of 1.4 million, because it's unplanned, right?
There goes that 10 million.
No.
Just couldn't resist.
So what we're looking at in terms of new costs is this $1,487,000 thereabouts. And we received $400,000 from the legislature this session, from, it was legislators, allocating funds.
Capital.
And so we have that, so we're down to $1 million, and we have some opportunities with funding, funding that's pretty likely. There's a state of New Mexico grid modernization grant that we're gonna go for. I think we're set up, we're teed up very nicely for that. And with Bill's help, we'll be pursuing that. And Bill introduced us to this Inflation Reduction Act, and Renewable Energy Cash Subsidy.
Yep.
The IRC, right? IRA. Yeah, that we're gonna be pursuing as well. And again, our project is really ripe for these things. I mean, it's
So we might
shovel
get it.
ready.
Yeah,
So
we might get it then.
Well, a board member, Siegel, the IRA is pretty clear in pointing to microgrids as a target goal of the IRA's energy section. So what you have to do to get the money is not in a typical grant scenario where you apply and they pick you, but but instead with the IRA, if you qualify, you receive the funding. And I'd bet the ranch, and we see that as subject to final rulemaking, which we expect to be the end of this month, which usually means the end of next month. We think it probably is north of $900,000 for SFCC.
Great.
And would you be the one, I guess, putting that proposal together for that money? Or do we do that?
I mean, usually clients counsel, if they have an energy practice, will take the lead. But the engineering backup needs to be provided by us, and so once again we'll be leaning on Dean Gakos to make sure it's all perfect, and we know what to do.
And is that out of Department of Energy and out of their Colorado office or renewable laboratories up there?
No, NREL was not tasked with approving grant applications, so my understanding is it'll go to DOE in Washington, then funded out of the IRS.
Okay.
I guess I had two just following questions. Conceptually, this is a performance contract, which typically the concept of a performance contract is that the vendor is paid from savings revenue in the long run. Is that not how performance contracts typically operate? I went through a training in the state a few years ago, and that was exactly how it was presented to us.
Yeah, in New Mexico, you perform an investment grade audit of the school. That audit has to be approved by Energy, Minerals, and Natural Resources Department of the state. And only if it is, and they hire a third-party engineering firm, et cetera, can it move forward. And then we issue a guarantee of the energy savings in the audit. That energy savings is used to get sort of premium financing, which Nick then negotiated, from there. That's kind of the high view.
And in the bigger picture, the investments we're making in this, at what point will we be we're benefiting. Is there a point at which our investment is paid off and we're getting a check essentially every month for the investments we made in energy savings?
Well, yeah, I mean, once it's paid off, it prints money. It optimizes your solar PV investment, which you made, how many years ago was that? and that's nearly paid off. So I can't remember the exact payoff year, but we could pull out the audit and take you through it. About 20 years.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's 20 years, so yes, in theory, it would be paid off, and then you could bank that money, but you're gonna have to buy additional, in 20 years, things, the useful life of equipment is an issue, so you'd have to be purchasing something else probably.
Other comments, questions?
My only other question would be whether we have any potential with PNM significantly increasing our costs because of delays in their process, if there's any opportunity or option for any money from PNM, that they actually created a big financial problem for us, and whether we have any legal recourse. And that we don't have to discuss today, but just a bug out there, just to throw that out there. They're a pretty big company, and they did do something that we don't know why it took so long, but probably just not a priority for somebody, and it's costing us a lot of money now.
Might take us just as long to get an answer back.
Okay, do I hear a motion to approve?
I move to approve.
Second?
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Aye. Unanimously approved. Thank you very much, Bill.
Thank you, everybody.
Can't wait to see this. Woo-hoo!
Okay.
It's almost
So now we can hear from Ms. White on grant updates. Or maybe we will hear from Dr. Morimoto.
Yes, I'm standing in for Ms. White.
Okay. Please.
Chair Gamble, members of the board, President Rowley, it's my pleasure to present our intention to apply for a couple of different grants. The good news is that 2 of the 4 grants, and Mason, whenever you have a chance, if you don't mind putting that on the screen, 2 of the 4 grants we've already received. So hooray for the people who've applied for them. The first grant, if you don't mind going to the next slide, the National Association for the Education for Young Children's ECED grant has been awarded to us. Congratulations to Dawn and her team for the successful application there. If you don't mind going to the next slide, please.
What?
Oh, yes.
I have a question
Go back.
about that.
Okay.
So support accreditation for, I thought we already had accreditation for our associate degree in early childhood.
For the I don't know how to pronounce.
Oh, is it accreditation for that
Yes,
organization?
NAEYC organization, right?
So they're giving us a grant to pay for their membership?
To go for their accreditation purpose, yes. To apply for their accreditation.
Okay. And then we have an annual fee to stay in it?
Yes,
To keep that
generally,
accreditation?
yes.
Okay.
But this is to really align our curriculum with the national standards.
Okay.
And then this next one is the preparing Hispanics and other underrepresented students in fisheries and aquaculture. And that was another one that we just heard back, saying that we got this sub-awardee received. Sub-award, we've received it. And congratulations to Charlie and his crew for their hard work on the application there. This one, we're still in the process of applying, and this is relating to open education resources. So, as many of you are aware, compared to our tuition, our textbooks are significantly higher. In some cases, the textbook's more expensive than the tuition. And so huge thanks to Val Nye and the faculty members for working hard and making sure that we have the open education resources available to our students, because then it could help students get these textbooks without having to pay $250, $300, $500. So we're going to be applying for this particular grant. It's really a sub-award grant, once again, from University of New Mexico. And if you mind going to the last but not least one, I think you're familiar with the Veterans Legacy Grant Project. And so this is actually an annual grant project, so we'll be applying it once again to continue on this important work.
Chair, I have a question on this. So I didn't quite understand, 500,000 comes to SFCC for work here? Or what is the expanding to Fort Baird, New Mexico Cemetery? And is this go through us to the legacy program?
So this comes to us, and a couple of our faculty members are working on this particular project. We were focusing on a different cemetery last time in terms of the veterans, and now we're going to be expanding to the Fort Baird, New Mexico Cemetery, about telling their stories about the veterans who actually gave their lives in service of our country. And so that's my biggest knowledge about that matter. But Jim's not here.
Yes, I can just speak to that briefly. So expanding on the work of the grant this time, we're going to be featuring the interments at the cemetery there, also at tribal cemeteries. And we just met with the folks from Washington who came to do a grant review yesterday. They're very excited about that, and I want to applaud the work of Dr. Steve Martinez in leading this project. Any other questions I can answer, I'm just happy to stand for.
Okay, thanks, Jim. That helps me understand why that was on there. Okay.
Other comments, questions? And those are information items. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Dr. Morimoto. And we now move to policy. And you're also going to tell us about policy.
So this is the first reading for Policy 432 hiring. And this is a particularly important policy for us because it ensures that we have the most qualified individuals working at the college. I'm not sure if you've heard of this, but for the past several years, actually, as long as I've worked at SFCC, our hiring process has been a very cumbersome process. Regardless of which position, Linda, I appreciate that chuckle there, Board Member Siegel. Regardless of the position, whether you're a lifeguard, not to say the lifeguard is not an important position, or a senior executive position, we go through the exact same positions of a two-tiered process. And it takes a lot of time and actually energy from everybody involved to really do these hiring processes. So the HR team have met with Staff Senate and Faculty Senate and talked about how can we actually streamline this particular process. And so the result is this policy update that's really right in front of you. So for example, we've clarified in this first paragraph that this particular policy applies to employees except for adjunct faculties, adult ed instructors, CE instructors, and student workers. If you mind going down a little bit more, we've added the word, it's not just diversity, but also equity is something that's really important to the college. If we keep going. We've updated the hiring authority to include associate and assistant vice presidents because that's actually, in reality, has been the practice, right? It just wasn't included in the past when we were trying to define the hiring authority. We've included words such as, designee, because there are situations where the hiring authority says, look, I'm not the one who should be leading this process. You should be the one who's leading the process. So we can making sure there's that flexibility right there. And so there's a couple different, most of the updates right here is relating to just the fact that the HR now reports to me rather than the Vice President Tejas. And so that's the update right there. And this area really starts to clarify what is really the responsibility of the hiring authority, right? So we're working really with that, the hiring authority is really working with the Office of Human Resources to determine if really a panel is necessary. One of the things that we're really trying to do with this particular policy is to not have procedure items into the policy. What that does is it makes it more cumbersome and it makes it difficult for us to respond. That has been particularly true over the last couple of years with the great resignation push, where we found that our response to these excellent candidates was not fast enough. And so we were losing people to different job offers. And so to that end, we said, okay, we got to really come back and see whether or not we actually need to go through this cumbersome process or it's really case by case. In terms of, we looked at our diversity representation as well for different areas in terms of age, gender, and ethnicity. And we found that we're actually pretty diverse, pretty representative in many cases, almost completely representative of our local community in terms of our staff members. Where we need to do some additional work is recruiting additional diverse faculty members to make sure that that work is continuing. Although we've made some significant improvements over the last 6-7 years. Our faculty of color used to be around the 20% range. Now I think it's around 35% range. And so big thanks to actually the faculty task force who led that effort. If you mind keep going. I mean, I don't want to waste everybody's time by going line by line, so perhaps I could just stand for questions, but hopefully it's clear from you that most of the response of the feedback I received from the faculty and staff senate, actually faculty senate has been incorporated in here. For the staff senate, there was no feedback. And I received strong support for this particular recommendations. So with that, I stand for questions.
Okay.
Wondering, under A3, under policy process,
No need.
the hiring authority is going to be working with the head of HR to determine whether or not the hiring panel is needed. Is there anywhere, is that just something that HR gets to make up, or is there any place where there's guidance as to what kind, I mean, I'd like to see somewhere in the policy, these kinds of jobs, we need a hiring panel, and these kinds we don't.
Those are the things that we want to put in the procedures, but we have something in mind already. So what we have talked with the faculty and staff members is for the salary grade 13 and below does not require a hiring panel, whereas 13 and above, we will, right? And even that's sort of case by case depending on the need, but yes, and generally that would be the guidelines.
I guess the kind of thing, and I know historically, that's the kind of thing I'd like to see in the policy. I don't think we need to bring every procedure in, but that seems like a very important distinction. And I know that if it's in policy, that only changes by coming to the board. If it's in procedure, it can change without anyone on campus really knowing that it changed, except for a handful of people. And I think that's an important enough distinction that's worth putting in policy, something we shouldn't be changing all the time.
Well, I appreciate that feedback.
Yeah, so I guess I would support Zuby on that some kind of clarifying statement that, I mean, you can certainly embellish in policy how to execute it or implement it, but you had that right on the tip of your tongue, and I had no idea, right? And so that's a pretty defining nugget that I think should be incorporated.
Okay.
Other comments?
I do think we need to define equity.
Okay. Under the definition?
Yeah, in the definitions.
Okay.
What are equity values? Equity. Great. I mean, finally, streamlining hiring.
Yeah. When I came to SFCC, the hiring process took about 6 months. I had to turn down 7 job offers before I said I could, waiting to hear from SFCC. So
that is ridiculous.
That's as bad as the government.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I think it's going to help all of us if we could
Yeah.
streamline it a little bit more.
Yeah.
Having 2 rounds of interviews for most of our jobs is just,
For most of the jobs?
yeah. I mean, well, it was for all of them.
Uh-huh.
That's what we're trying to eliminate.
Yeah.
Mm. Other comments, questions?
So just a question. So if this or some version with some limits on who wouldn't need a hiring panel, what percentage of you do you think of new employees would not have a hiring panel? Are we talking 60, 70%?
When we thought about this policy, we really was thinking about it from a salary grade perspective and not necessarily how many people. So I will look at that information and get back to the board members. I'm sorry, I don't have that information in front of me. But that's a good question. So thank you for bringing it up.
Okay. Okay.
Thanks for your work on this. I think you're right. This is very important, and it not only saves a lot of time and energy, it probably saves a lot of money to have
Right.
Yeah, if done correctly, I think it's a win-win-win kind of situation.
And we might actually get more people.
That is one of
the goals.
Yeah.
Hire some folks.
The goals.
Thank you.
How soon
Okay.
can we pass this?
Thank you very much, Dr. Morimoto.
Okay.
No other board reports?
Wow, we made
Any
it.
discussion?
5 o'clock. It's only 5 o'clock. Don't we have a couple more hours? or-
Right. Yeah.
Right on the dot.
Yeah.
So could I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. Great.
All right.
Next board meeting on May 24th.